On New Year's week, my son brought a pie I did not like and a brochure I liked even less. He set them both on my table, as if dessert and decisions went together. He said the pie was from a new place near their apartment, and the brochure was from a friend who knew exactly how to simplify things for me. He said, "Fresh start," and patted my hand like the word had frosting on it. Outside, my little porch held the same blue chair it had held since my husband painted it, the summer the hydrangeas refused to bloom. The chair knew my knees, my coffee, my neighbor's morning wave. It knew the feel of certain winters and the names of passing cats. It has more memory than any brochure. My son smiled the way people smile when they are presenting a solution that costs only your peace. "Let's talk about listing the house," he said. Before we continue, please subscribe to the channel and let us know in the comments where you're listening from and what time it is. I have lived here most of my adult life. The roof has complained in the usual seasons. The gutters have sulked. The porch boards have learned my step. I kept the books for a small warehouse and never forgot the quiet dignity of a balanced page. That habit followed me home. In the pantry, a folder of utility bills sits fat and satisfied, marked "Paid." On a shelf above the stove, I keep an old shoebox filled with casserole labels. My daughter sticks on her dishes. Dates, a little heart, the occasion. I never throw them away. They are my calendar when the phone is dead. My son is a good man who loves quick answers. His wife loves even quicker ones. They live in a place where the closet tries to be a room. They want a bigger place and a backyard for hypothetical children with names they already debate. I want them to have everything happiness requires, except my porch. We are a family that fills silences with baked goods. When words are hard, something arrives in a dish. The day before that conversation, my daughter's sticky note said, "Chicken, extra time, because you always ask." My son's sticky note, he had started using them too, to meet me where I live, said, "Big talk soon. Promise it's easy." On the counter that morning, the note glowed like a small warning light. Easy often means easy for the person saying it. The house is not fancy. The walls hold family photographs and a print of a lighthouse from a trip my husband and I took before the bridge toll doubled and our patience halved. In winter, the living room smells faintly of wool and lemon oil. In summer, the porch smells like cut grass and old joke books. My husband used to sit out there and tell the same story about a stubborn lawnmower, and I used to laugh like I had never heard it before. That morning, I made coffee, set 2 mugs on the table, and waited for the pitch. My son unfolded the brochure as if it were a map to a kinder life. "Mom," he said, "this house is lovely, but it's a lot. The yard, the gutters, the stairs. We found a condo closer to us, single level, elevator, gym downstairs. You could walk to everything. It would free up cash and take pressure off me and Nina. We could finally move." He was gentle. He had rehearsed. He used the steady voice he saves for client calls and bad news. He pointed to photos of a kitchen with light nobody had to court with a broom. He described a small balcony where I could put a chair, a plant, a memory. He skipped over the part where my chair would not be the same chair, and the hydrangea would not be my hydrangea. "I appreciate the thought," I said. That is what I said out loud. Inside, I said other things. I said, "This house has held the worst day of my life and the best. It has seen me angry and faithful. It has listened to babies who became teenagers and then people who call me when they have stubborn problems. It is not a pile of boards and a tired roof. It is me, spread out and nailed down." He tried another angle. "It's really for us in a way. We need the room. If we sell this, it solves everything. You'd be near us. We'd check on you every day. You're always saying you don't want to be a burden." That word has a sharp corner. I have never liked it. Burden is a bad noun for a good mother, I said. He laughed like I always say that. Maybe I do. He slid another paper across the table names of agents, stages called valuation, and offers in a friendly font. He said he would handle everything, so I could focus on enjoying life. I looked at my porch chair through the window. It looked back with the patience of painted wood. I am enjoying life, I said. It does not always look like a brochure. He reached for my hand. I let him hold it, because I love my son, and love is not the same as agreement. I told him I would think. He left the pie and the papers. He promised not to push. The promise lasted as long as the pastry. 2 days later, he brought Nina and a woman who introduced herself as just popping by to get a sense of the layout. She said it like she was measuring a dress, and the dress would not feel it. She smiled a neat smile and brought a little metal tool. Nina, who has never met a spreadsheet she did not admire, flitted around with a tape and an app that turned my bedrooms into boxes on a screen. The woman called the living room the front. She called the porch the entry. She called my pantry a flexible space. In her mouth, the shelves lost the names I gave them: flower shelf, jar shelf, stubborn jar shelf. I stood by the stove and stirred a pot of soup I did not want to share. The measuring woman asked if the blue chair on the porch stayed. I said the chair stayed with the porch, and the porch stayed with me. She laughed like I had made a joke. Nina didn't laugh. She never laughs when I make that kind of joke. My son tried to meet everyone halfway and wound up looking like a man trying to be 3 people. When they left, the house did not return to itself right away. Measuring leaves a noise that takes time to die. I put the metal tape back in its case and set it where the magazines go, right on top of a catalog that used to make me think I needed new things I do not need. That night, my daughter came by with a casserole label that said, "Beef, no mushrooms," I remember. She asked what happened, and I told her only the part about the measuring. She moved the casserole to the freezer and left me the label. I stuck it to the inside of the cupboard door where I keep the coffee. I like labels where I will find them in the morning. The following weekend, they invited me to brunch. I brought flowers and a good mood. The good mood went home in the wrapping paper. Halfway through the eggs, my son cleared his throat and announced to the table friends, a cousin, a neighbor who loves other people's decisions, that Mom will be moving closer soon. We're streamlining things. She'll have an elevator. Nina clapped her hands once, like a school bell. Someone said what a relief it must be for me, at last, to let go. I pressed my napkin in a neat square and set it to my left. I could feel my knuckles thinking. "I haven't decided," I said. I smiled when I said it, because truth can be sharp and still wear a sweater. The table went quiet in the way some tables do, as if the salt and pepper were embarrassed. My son looked as if he had tripped. He caught himself on the edge of the chair and cleared his throat again and moved a sausage around his plate like it had offended him. After brunch, he pulled me aside in the hall where the good coat lives on the only good hanger. "I thought we were aligned," he said, which is a sentence people say when they are more in love with a plan than with the people in it. "I am aligned with my porch," I said. He laughed, but his eyes did not. When I got home, there was a folder on my hall table I had not put there. Inside it was a letter of interest, with my house address printed in a glossy font and a sticky note that said, in Nina's style, "Sign when you're ready. We filled the hard parts." The hard parts they had filled were my name and my roof. The easy part left to me was surrender. I made tea and drank it on the porch, where the chair did not ask me to sign anything. I watched 2 teenagers argue about snacks and a dog argue with a leaf. The dog won. I have always kept a spare key in the planter by the porch, under a saucer no one looks at. My children know where it is because the house is a house, and sometimes houses lock their own people out. That week, I came back from the senior center to find my sofa shifted a little, my throw folded into a tidy rectangle that looked like a stranger's idea of my throw, and a card from a staging company tucked under the salt shaker. I pressed my palm to the sofa arm, the way you check a sleeping child's forehead, and waited for the room to tell me what else had changed. In the kitchen, a second brochure lay open to a photograph of metal bar stools smiling with their backs. On the counter, a small business card shone with a raised border and a tidy name, someone who notarized things on your schedule. The card felt like a coin left on a pillow, nothing by itself, a sentence when you know the hotel. I checked the planter. The saucer had been set down a little crooked. The soil showed a shallow scrape. My son is a good man, and good men sometimes make the mistake of believing that goodness and permission are cousins. I put the key in my pocket and watered the planter with a slow hand. The soil drank and did not argue. That night I slept poorly, then slept well, then woke, feeling like a moral had tried to visit and failed to find parking. I made coffee and looked at the utility bill on the table. I like its simple little lines, how the amount due matches the amount paid, how the paper believes me when I say done. I wanted that feeling here. I made a choice that morning, and it was the kind of choice you have to remake every hour for a while. I decided to stop being agreeable. Not unkind, not dramatic. Simply not compliant with plans that required my walls to forget me. I took out a sheet of paper and wrote a letter I did not yet send. I kept it short because short things can be heavy. It said, "I love you. I am not selling my house. Please stop arranging my life as if I do not live in it." I folded the letter in thirds and set it on the shelf where I keep the recipe cards with splashes from happier kitchens. I would decide later whether to hand it to my son or read it aloud, which is a form of handing a thing you cannot fold. I called a neighbor who runs the community garden and asked, as politely as ever, if she had seen people in my yard when I was not at home. She said she had noticed a short van and a woman with a clipboard around lunchtime the day before. She assumed they were helping, the way people assume things when the word family is in the room. I thanked her and asked her to knock if she saw any more help I had not ordered. I took a walk around the block and let the street remind me of where everything goes. The lampposts know my gait. The corner knows my breath. When I came back, I fixed the sofa, unfolded the throw, moved the barstool photograph under a stack of seed catalogs I actually use. Then I made soup. I was not offering anyone, and wrote the date on another casserole label for no reason, except that I like to see my own hand making small, honest sentences. By evening, my son texted, asking if he could come by. Quick, promise. I told him tomorrow would be better. He sent a series of dots and then a heart, and then, after a pause, a key emoji. He meant to be funny. Jokes notice the weather of a room better than plans do. The sign appeared on a Sunday morning, the kind of pale gray morning when even loud people speak softly. It stood in my yard like a visitor who had not learned to knock, fresh, straight, branded, confident. The post crew must have come at dawn or while I was in the shower. The ground around the stake was bruised with that new dirt color that never matches the rest. The sign did not say, "Coming soon." It did not say, "Thinking about it." It said the only thing signs like that ever say. It told neighbors to imagine my couch behind their couch, my pantry behind their pantry, my porch scrubbed of me. A neighbor I like in small doses slowed at the curb and called out congratulations. Another asked about the open house later. My stomach pulled like a drawer with a swollen edge. I stepped onto the porch and touched the blue chair to remind it and me that we were still together. The doorbell rang within the hour. A woman with a crisp jacket and a large smile stood beside a couple holding coffee cups they had brought from elsewhere. The woman had the confidence of someone who has never needed a key. Her eyes already knew my hallway in the way a person's eyes can know a hallway when a photograph has told them enough. "Good morning," she sang. "We're here for the private showing." I looked at the couple. They looked apologetic and hopeful. Behind them, my son turned the corner of the path, breathless, carrying 2 paper cups and a paper bag, as if refreshments could soften a trespass. "Mom," he said, as if he had dropped by. "I was just about to text." The woman lifted her clipboard a little and listed rooms I should open. The couple smiled again, careful, pleasant, the way people smile at a dog whose name they do not know. My son spoke quickly about momentum and not missing a good window, and we can always say no later. He looked everywhere but at the chair. I stood squarely in my doorway and felt the house collect itself behind me. The walls have a way of joining you when you mean a thing. I did not raise my voice. I did not apologize for the quiet that fell like a quilt. "You must be lost," I said. The woman's smile faltered. The couple stared into their cups. My son swallowed, then started a sentence that tried to fix itself as it fell apart. I did not move. The sign on the lawn made itself larger in the corner of my eye. The notary card on my counter felt heavier than paper. The porch boards under my feet remembered every winter we had done together. I could hear my husband's old lawnmower joke sliding forward from the past, tapping me on the shoulder like a reminder. Some engines only run when you're the one pulling the cord. I kept my place in the doorway until the air remembered who lived there. The agent tried a softer tone and said we could just take a quick look, no commitments, as if the look itself didn't carry its own kind of signature. I asked a simple question. I should have asked the first day anyone said, "Streamline." I asked whose permission she had to show my house. She lifted her clipboard and said there was a seller authorization on file. She used the kind of voice that expects a nod. My son's face told the rest. He had not written anything called authorization, not in his own hand. He glanced toward the kitchen as if paper grows there on its own. I stepped inside, picked up the small card the staging people had left, and dialed the number. I didn't announce what I was doing. I didn't ask permission from a clipboard. The notary answered on the second ring, the way people answer when their days are organized and their coffee has been kind. I introduced myself and read the address on the card. I asked whether she had notarized anything for my house. She grew careful in the way professionals do when the road turns. She said she had come by for a walk-through acknowledgement, the sort of paper people sign when they are touring a property on behalf of someone else. She said she kept a journal, as notaries do, and that her journal listed the names of the people she saw that afternoon. She read the names. None of them were mine. I thanked her and hung up. I didn't repeat what she'd said like an accusation. I just let the room have the fact that I had not been in her book that day. The couple looked at their cups as if the lids could help them. The agent's smile shrank to the size of a postage stamp. My son tried to speak and landed in the wrong sentence twice before he found any words at all. "We got ahead of ourselves," he said. "I thought—" He stopped and tried again. I hoped. I stood a little straighter without moving at all. "You hoped my porch could buy your life," I said. "You used my key because love told you you could. Love is wrong about some things." The agent rallied once more, said they could reschedule, said we could press pause. I told her to lift the pause and put it on the sign instead. The couple, to their credit, apologized, said they'd been told this was a private showing at the seller's convenience, and fled down the path with their cups clacking like little horses. My son and I watched them go. The agent slipped away with a sentence about checking with her office, which is what people say when they need a hallway before an apology. He and I stood on the porch with the blue chair between us like a witness. He started in with reasons: the market, the timing, a friend who could only hold the condo for so long. I let him talk until the reasons ran out of steam and sat down beside him like tired dogs. Then I went inside, took the folded letter from the shelf where I keep recipes, and handed it to him. I did not change a word. I love you. I am not selling my house. Please stop arranging my life as if I do not live in it. He read it once, then again, the way you read a label on medicine when you finally accept that the cure tastes how it tastes. He said he was sorry. He said he'd meant to help, meant to make it easy. I told him easy had become a mask for something else. He nodded as if a knot he'd hidden from himself had finally been pointed out. We went out together and pulled the sign from the ground. It did not want to come. Signs like staying where they can be believed. He carried the post to the curb and leaned it against the trash bin like a tired soldier. A neighbor called out a question, and I called back that plans had changed, because the truest stories can be short. That evening, I found the spare key in my pocket and set it in my son's palm. "You don't need this for now," I said. "Ask before you come. Wait for me to open the door." He looked hurt, the way boys look when a rule suddenly has a shape. Then he closed his fingers, nodded, and put the key in his wallet like a lesson you can fold. The next day, the agent left a careful message saying there had been a misunderstanding and that their office had updated the file. She did not say how the misunderstanding had walked itself into my living room. She did say the notary had reached out with a reminder about journals and names and why those things matter. I did not need the reminder. I keep journals in my bones. I wrote to Nina. I didn't scold her. I told the day from my side. I told her about the chair and the planter and the feeling of coming home to a couch shifted by strangers. I told her about love that tries too hard and becomes a plan, and plans that try even harder and become a door that doesn't know the house it opens. She wrote back that she'd wanted to build a life, had grabbed at the first lever she could find. She said she'd gotten lost inside good intentions and excitement, and a tiny balcony she'd already filled in her mind with the sound of my laugh. That made me merciful. Excitement is a poor navigator. It forgets to ask for directions at the only corners that matter. We took a month off from big conversations after that. Not from love. Sat in the kitchen and read the paper with me. But from momentum. My son and I stuck to small things on purpose. We drank coffee on the porch and talked weather. We fixed a sticky cupboard. We watched the neighbor's dog fail to learn patience and praised him anyway. In the quiet work of small hours, the house stitched itself back to me where it had been tugged loose. He and Nina kept looking at places. They learned the uncommon art of wanting without naming my porch as the price. They found a rental that would hold them while they saved the way grown people save. They put away a little money and put away, more importantly, the idea that I was their final solution. We made new rules you could write on a napkin. Ask before you enter. Speak to the person who lives in the plan. Bring pie only if it tastes like respect. They returned the metal tape and the app stayed closed. The measuring noise finally faded out of my rooms. A season turned and then another. I planted herbs in the planter where the spare key used to live. The basil proved itself earnest. The rosemary stood like an elder with excellent posture and offered opinions on the wind. I sat in the blue chair and learned, again, the shape of my own breathing. Sometimes my son joined me and we let silence do what speeches cannot. Sometimes Nina came by with muffins and a softer voice, one that sounded less like a presentation and more like a person who wanted to be in the same air as me. I walked with my daughter to the corner store and bought stamps I did not need. I kept the little casserole labels on the inside of the cupboard door like medals for days when I remembered who I was. Once, when the bills came in a fat white clutch, I set the newest utility bill on the table and smoothed it with my palm. Paid, it said in its quiet way. Not to the agent, not to a plan. Paid to the life that fit me. When New Year's week returned, my son brought a pie I actually liked. He handed me an envelope and said it was not a brochure. Inside was a photograph of a different porch in a different neighborhood, the kind with a young maple that will need patience and a landlord who does not require anyone's mother to fund anything. He said they'd signed a sensible lease and carved out a budget that didn't include other people's roofs. He looked proud and a little bit taller, people do when they stand on their own floor. We ate pie without talking about square footage. We planned a small dinner in their new kitchen where the counters are shy and the faucet is loud, and we promised to keep our sentences short when the temptation to say, "if only," walked by wearing a pretty coat. Before they left, my son asked for the spare key again. Not to take it. To put it back where it belongs, in the planter, this time beneath a new saucer I chose. He set it there with a ceremony that told the soil he had learned something curved and useful. We watered the herbs and laughed at how romantic basil tries to be. That night, I stood in the doorway with the porch light on and told the house we had done a good job. The walls leaned in. The chair didn't answer. Chairs don't, even when you wish they would. But it held me as it always does. The way a good boundary holds, without noise, without drama, with an honest weight you can sit inside. Generosity needs limits. Love can bring pie and still wait on the porch until it's invited in. If this felt familiar, stay with QuietRevenge. We tell the hard family stories, calm, and we end them clean.